Hey.
Good morning.
Oop. I think I did this last time. There we go. No, I already started it. Some people talk or something. I want to be able to see if I can hear. Okay, good. I was checking the live stream because that would be very, very very disappointing if I do all this and then it doesn't record the sound, like TK's presentation last year. Yeah, he did a whole big thing about the history of humanism in Toledo, and the sound didn't work, so it was all blank.
You know, the Toledo gets minds.
Yeah, that's probably what it is. I've been trying to get him to do it again. And I told him, I said, well, just go ahead and record it yourself. That's fine, because I want the history, but yeah. All right, well, I guess we'll go ahead and get started. Thanks everybody for being here. In case you don't know me, I'm Doug. I'm the founder and president of the Secular Humanists of Western Lake Erie. The presentation we're going to be doing today is about release time religious instruction in Ohio, and I did this presentation for First UU last fall, and so I've updated it. There's been some recent shenanigans going on in the State House concerning it, and so and then we'll be able to talk about it and discuss it and things like that. A couple things. We have our Humanist Happy Hour coming up on the 24th at Nick and Jimmy's on Monroe Street at 5:30, if you're able to do that. On April the 30th, we have a volunteer opportunity at the food bank, Seagate Food Bank, from 6 to 8. I think they're going to have us packing boxes this time. Last year we were helping with their project, PJ project. And if you have not already RSVP'd on the website, I do have a sign-up form. I want to pass this around. I'm trying to get at least 10 people to do it. And then, yeah, it's pen. And if you can, that's fine. I'm not going to force people to do it, but we want to try to help them out. The May meeting is going to be on the second Saturday, and we're going to be talking. It's I'm going to be doing my one of my workshops that I did for the HA recently. We're going to talk about writing letters to the editor. Yeah. Oh, it's 6 to 8 p.m. Yeah. Oh, and if you don't know where Seagate Food Bank is, it's in over by where the Amtrak station is. It's on the street is High Street. It's off of Maumee Street. If anybody's familiar with the South End. And Ann Epstein is the point person on that. And so I'll get her, if the people sign up, I'll get the names to her and deal with that. But it was a good time. We did it last year. It was a good time. We did it for Darwin Day last year. We tried to do it for Darwin Day this year, but it got weather canceled it. Let's see. Anything else immediate? Yeah.
Is this the kind of thing you can just show up last minute? Because with my work schedule, I don't know.
Yeah.
But if I try
Yeah,
to
we're
find
not-
people, I can just-
Yeah, I'm just trying to gauge how many people to expect, and because usually they'll fit people in. It's not a set number of people. Yeah. Yeah. I just would rather not have just 3 people show up, but you know, I'm sure they'll make it work. Anything else I could think of? Derek, what about the troublemakers? What's up with them?
So today, this afternoon, at 4 o'clock, please, the 419 day, National Day of Protest, which is also Toledo Persists, and Toledo Persists is the one that, and the Lucas County Library, Lucas County Democratic Library, Libraries. Democratic Party are the ones that organized it. I'm just relaying that from the troublemakers. Last Thursday, we had our monthly meeting. There's a lot of things that we're starting to try to put together, including a group, a team that's going to be looking at giving information, providing information, setting up actual projects that have to deal with issues on reproductive rights for women, and then for another group is going to be looking at working on education. They're part of, and I think you're also part of that, is the Ohio. Let's see, one for education as well.
Oh, Honesty for Ohio Education.
Yeah. Remember the name of it. So there's a group that's aiming towards doing work with that, and then the group that I'm going to be working with is human rights, and that's including immigration and other areas of human rights violations. Those are the 3 big ones that we're working on. And each, let's see, we've got another meeting coming up in May. Let me quickly just hop onto that.
Yeah, is that with Kristen Haiti and I can't think of who the other person was. I apologize.
It's all right.
So I just saw the notice the other day.
My partner, she's been really the trouble. So I get like first-hand information. So, and it's over 700 on the Facebook page. We have a blue sky account. There's a troublemaker. Could get yes on there. So, and we have that going on as well. There's a troublemaker website, but you have to, I'll have to figure out a way of getting people on board with. There was some issues with some people trying to create problems, and we had to take that off the page because of it. Oh, that's great. This website, not website, the connection to the library.
Sketchy, yeah.
I might get to the events page.
Oh,
We
well.
do have some things going on as well. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Yeah, we have a link to the group on our website too, under our resources.
Media and Mary.
That's what it was.
Sharing her thoughts how the new White House initiatives are making American gas. And Kristen Nady, program director for abortion. We talked about all things abortion. This is going to be on, there is, May 28th at 6 o'clock at Kings Road Branch Library. So this last Thursday, we had it here in Sanger, and then the previous month we had it over in
West Toledo.
West Toledo, and then the first one that we had was in Sylvania at the different libraries.
And then Sylvania told you not to come back.
Kings Road Branch Libraries.
When Sylvania told you not to come back.
Yeah. He said, well, no, they said just.
Too many people.
Yeah. We had over. So yes, this last Thursdays was almost 60 people, around 60 people or so. Training for that. And we're averaging anywhere between 60 to 100. Even the meeting prior to, so last month's meeting was close to 80, I think, or something like that. So it's bouncing around. And we would have had more, but there was conflicts that people were saying they couldn't attend. And sometimes they won't sign up, they'll show up. So we get a lot of that mixture.
Do you have a number? I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Do you have a number on the protest over the bridge?
Oh,
Do you have any
yeah.
idea?
I'm trying to remember what day that one was. Was that the 9th? That was the 9th. So of April, and at the St. Charles Bridge, Memorial Bridge, there were over 4,000 people that showed up. So we go, and that's fantastic. They say nationally there was 5 million people across the country that stood up and at different protests in places like Bowling Green State University and even in small towns across Ohio and across the country. It was a very large number that came out, and what they were hoping to do today at this afternoon. And there's another hands-off event at about 2 o'clock over at Bowling Green as well. I don't know the details on that one, but the one over here
You say tomorrow?
today
Oh, today,
Today, I'm
something
sorry.
in Bowling Green?
in Bowling Green.
And who's doing it?
That's a different group. But they're all part of the 4-1. They're all part of the National Day of Protest, essentially. And that's happening across the country again. And this was
Yeah,
the day.
right. And I was in Bowling Green.
So each one
on
was
the
different.
night, but I didn't know about something going on today.
Yeah, this one today as well.
But you know what?
Yeah, the one here in Toledo is
And
at.
no, in
Okay.
Bowling Green. I mean,
I don't know the
I come
details
away,
of what Bowling
I'm
Green-
scheduled for cataract surgery.
Yeah.
Hey, it's raining.
Yeah, I don't know the details of this.
Say this sort of works, right?
Okay, I don't have anything to do with Bowling Green.
Yeah, no, I know, you don't know what.
It's 2 o'clock.
Oh, it's a tour.
That's
It's
all I
probably for minutes, half, I didn't. Well, Bowling Green. So big, right?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
Just drive down Rooster, you'll find it.
And I'm not
Most
even
of them
sure.
are first corners or thereabouts, right?
Right. So, but yeah, for
So is this all organized by them?
it was organized by different groups.
And where were the protests during the last administration?
Here was
We
it.
have a damn genocide going on, and I'm.
Oh, you mean for the Biden administration?
Yeah, there was quite a few protests for that. Yeah, that's why there's a lot of students have lost their student visas because of that. Yeah.
Because I was active in the Democratic Party in Black Hawk County, which is primarily Democratic, right? So we had, I watched presidential primaries rigged, and I can give you the documentation, that hey, it'll take hours, I'm not it, right? I'm an analytic
I'm not
person.
sure what your question
It's like the leading Democrat would rather have Trump than have things work, because they love to have these big rallies and the noise, because then people donate money. They don't care whether we get things fixed. And I'm old. I remember when Biden facilitated Clarence Thomas getting on the Supreme Court. And that was a bad thing. It's like it ignored
Well,
Anita.
I can tell you this, the
Yeah.
Toledo, the Toledo Troublemakers is not affiliated with the Democrats.
Yeah, right. No,
They're
and
just
I
a resolute group.
can probably find it. Around, I have parents to do it. Yeah, it's important to have the warm bodies. I'm not arguing with that.
Okay.
It's just, we need to know that it didn't start. And Biden also, and Clinton in 94. I mean, by the time Biden was running in 2019, he said, "Oh, hey, we had the violence against women." But this was in addition to the mass incarceration.
Okay.
All
right. Well, yeah, Ruth, I appreciate your comments, but we've gone off the rails here. So let's get back to the program today. And I really appreciate your comments. I really do. And thank you, Derek, for giving us the lowdown on that, because it's kind of hard, with stuff going on everywhere. It's kind of hard to keep up on everything. All right. All right. Well, today we're going to be talking about release time religious instruction in Ohio. How many people have heard of release time religious instruction? And basically what this is a method of instituting religious education in public schools and how they get around the Constitution cases. And I have a presentation about it. And let me share my screen for the YouTube people. Around the Constitution cases. And I have a presentation about it. And let me share my screen for the YouTube people. All right. No, I'm not going to try subtitles. All right, so this is an updated presentation I gave in the around the Constitution cases, and I have a presentation about it. The objectives that we're going to accomplish today is define what release time religious instruction is, the legal aspects, introduce the major provider of this program, LifeWise Academy, and its founder, Joel Penton. We'll discuss the issues with LifeWise and RTRI. And I use RTRI instead of saying release time religious instruction all the time in public schools in Ohio, and find out what we can do to control how groups like LifeWise operate, if not stop them completely. Oh, and feel free if you have any questions to let me know that you have a question, and we'll try to address those. All right, so while we will talk a lot about LifeWise Academy, I personally oppose release time religious instruction in the public schools, no matter who's doing it. I'm not going to try secular, subtitles. Jewish, Muslim, Christian, whatever. All right, so this is an updated presentation I gave in those activities help the children and they're more disruptive. And I have a presentation about it. The objective you can oppose release time programs and be religious is the legal aspects. Change your belief. Introduce the major not anti-religion provider of this program, LifeWise. Not a freedom of religion issue. It's a time, man, or place issue. We'll discuss the issues with LifeWise. It's also a political issue related to Christian nationalism. I use RTRI instead of saying release time religious instruction all the time in public schools in Ohio, and find out what we can do to control how groups like LifeWise operate. It is search for Toledo Humanists. That's the channel. Oh, and feel free if you have any questions to let me know that you have a question. And it's this issue matters because children are required to attend public schools. So while we will talk religion in the school should be scrutinized very carefully, I personally oppose release time religious instruction in the
All right,
public
release
schools,
time
no matter-
religious
No, I'm not
instruction
gonna
is
try.
when
Secular,
with the parents'
Jewish,
permission,
Muslim,
public school children attend a
Christian,
religious
whatever.
class during the school day.
All right, so this is an
Since
updated presentation I
1948,
gave in
think
class
those
where
activities
all
have
the
to
children
constitute
have to be
an
off
educational
instruction,
and I have
educational
since
process.
1952 about it. They cannot
the
be
objective
operated
you can
as
oppose
schools
release
under
time
constraints.
programs
can be religious is the legal aspect. RTI programs have been
introduced the major
anti-religious
provider
for
80
80
years in some
program.
format. I know
Likewise, not a freedom
my
of
mom
religion
said that
issue.
they had
It's
a
a time
class
and
in
place issue.
her school
Discuss the
when she
issues
was
of
in-
life.
it's also a
political
political
issue
issue
related to
Next
Christian
to-
nationalism.
use
And there are religious programs that meet before or after school, but they're
in
not
public
considered
schools in Ohio.
RTRI. And find out what
the
we
Good
can do
News
to control how
Club,
groups like life
it is those are the ones that meet before or after school. That's the channel. Oh, and feel free if you have any questions to let me know that you have a question. And it's this issue matters because children are required to attend public. So while we will talk religion in the school should be scrutinized very carefully, I personally oppose release time religious instruction in the public. Release time religious teaching the Bible, secular, with the parents' permission, Muslim, public school children attend a religious class during the school day. All right, so this is an updated presentation I gave in class activities how the children have to be off instructed. And I have since 1952 about it. They cannot be operated. You can oppose release time programs can be religious is the legal aspect. And that's what we're going to talk about. The major anti-religious 80 years in some format. I know not a freedom of religion. There's two Supreme Court cases that cover this. It's also a political issue for education, which most secular people. There are religious programs that meet before. Basically, that in public schools in Ohio, public find out what we can do to Bible how groups like life in school during school day. Those are the ones that meet before or after school. That's the channel. Oh, and feel free if you have any. And what they would do is, like, when my mom went to school, this issue matters because children are required to. All right. So while we will go to a class during the school day, you go to the gym, and then you go to I personally oppose release time religious. The Supreme Court said not. All right. Release time. The main reason was the Bible. Children have to be there. Muslim, public school children attend whatever class during the school day. They're not. So this is an updated presentation. I gave in class activities how the Constitution have to be off. Second case that likewise and a lot of these Christian nationalists, the objective you can oppose release time program, which in 1952 is the legal aspect. New York, that's what we're going to talk about. The major anti-religious 80 years in some form. And they had a program that my mom there's two Supreme Court cases that cover this. It's also a political issue. That's a different thing with most secular people. There are religious programs that meet before. Basically, that in public schools in Ohio, publics find out what we can do to set it up and what the rules were during school day. Those are the ones that meet before or after school. That's the channel. Yeah, they still have to get parental, and what they would do is always require parental permission. When my mom went to school, this issue matters because children are required to. All right. So while we will go to a class during the school day, actually class and set up, parents have to get permission. It's held off school ground. All right. Release the main reason was the Bible. Children were mainly parents. Public school children attend whatever class during the school day. All right. This is an updated presentation I gave in class activities how to oppose it. Have to be off. Second case that likewise. You can't have it. The objective opposed to the class or actually program, which in 1952 they have quite a few the major anti-religious 80 years in some form. And they had a program. There's two Supreme Court cases that cover this. It's also a political issue. The district teachers, secular people, there are religious programs before. Basically, that in public schools in Ohio. Now, the Ohio law that set it up, all this, what the rules were, I revised code. 31.602. That's the channel. Yeah, they still have to get parental, and what they would do is always require parental permission. When my mom went to school, this issue matters because children are required to. All right. So while we will go to a class during the school day, Zora actually crossed and set in it, puts all of that in Zora actually crossed held off school ground. All right. Release the main reason was the Bible. Children were mainly point out on this. School children what a sponsoring entity has to make. All right. This is an updated presentation I gave in class. The second case that likewise you can't have it. The opposed to the class or actually sponsoring into 1952. They have quite a few major they also have and they had a program. There's two Supreme Court cases and they also have also political the district teachers, secular people, there are religious responsibilities. Basically, that in public schools in Ohio. Now, the Ohio law that
set it up, what the rules were, they passed a law. Yeah, they still have to get prior, and what they would do is, when my mom had previously, school children are required to have. So while we will go through during the Zora actually crossing, again, it doesn't put all of that Zora actually across the ground. The main reason was this is an updated presentation. The original, representative, they have quite a few there's two Supreme Court cases, and they also have the district teacher secular people are basically now the Ohio law, they set it up what the rules yeah, they still have to get prior, and what they would do is report on my mom had previously, children are required to have. So while we will go during the again, it doesn't put all of that the main reason was by cases that I read about the there's two Supreme Court cases, and they also have the district teacher secular and the now the Ohio law, they set it up yeah, they still have to get prior, and what they would so while we there's two Supreme Court cases, and they also have the district teacher and the now the Ohio law, they set it up yeah, they still have to get prior, and so while there's two Supreme Court cases, and they also have the district teacher and the now the Ohio law, they set it up yeah, they still have to get prior, and so while we There's two Supreme Court meetings. Yeah, they still have to be iFly's Academy, it was founded in 2018. There's two Supreme Court meetings. Yeah, they should have iFly's Academy, it was founded in 2018. There's two Supreme Court meetings. Yeah, they should have iFly's Academy, it was founded in 2018. It's stabilized. Right. But I did talk to yeah, and I don't have a problem, I did that as a kid too. I used to go to my friends who were iFly's Academy, it was founded in 2018. It's stabilized. Right. But I did talk to And then my thing is people hate natural basic kids, many of them yeah, and I don't have a problem, I did that too. I used to go see my friends who were I fly as a cat, you have an opportunity to do it's actually it's stabilized. Right. But I did talk to my thing that way. I could leave school for the day. Yeah, and I don't have a problem. I did that too. I used to go see my friends who were I fly as a cat. You have an opportunity to do it's actually stabilized. Right. But I did talk to when we do the kids likewise, Academy also has many other things. My thing that way. I could leave school. They also reported and they also get yeah, and I don't have a problem. They require very I did that too. My friends were it's actually stabilized. Right. But I did talk when we do the kids here are some of the concerns that kids still likewise, Academy many other things. They also get yeah, and I don't have a problem. They require it's actually stabilized. I did talk when we do the and I don't have a problem. They require it's actually stabilized. And I don't have a problem This is from back in Now you think that he was free human sacrifice is a caricature the children. We were talking about some clergy disagreeing with it. Some Catholics do it. Now you think that he was free that's why Josh Williams, that's why human sacrifice parents caricature the children. This is on a website we were talking about some clergy disagreeing with it. I had some Catholics do it. You can click on anything. As long as they follow school, they can't now you think that he was free that's why Josh Williams, that's why human sacrifice parents caricature the children. This is on our website. He's coming, open the door. We were talking about some clergy disagreeing with it. I had some Catholics do it. A lot of it, you can click on anything. A lot of Catholics as long as they follow training to do that, they get their school. They now you think that he was free, and that's argument you made. That's why Josh Williams, because that's parents' carriage are supposed to be the children. This is on our website. You can call my open the door. We were talking about what Ohio does. Really disagree with what I had it. A lot of it, you can click on these. A lot of stuff. We did this as long as they follow do that. Stick it with it. Now, in Ohio, part of the budget, they can probably file a lawsuit for land. Now you think it's the and that's hard to be made. Because that's the children. This is on our website. You can call my open the door. Yeah, so they do that. They're talking about I had it. There was some as long as they follow do that. Now, and after trying to probably file, so they got different now you think and that's hard to be the children. This is mandated. Yeah, so they do that. They're talking about I had it. There was some if anybody wants to do, as long as they follow, I would stick with it. Now, and after trying to can't say you could probably file. The other so if you get a nosebleed, this is mandated. Yeah, so they do that. They're talking about I had it. There was some this thing they just likewise I would likewise sticking with it now. And after trying to can't say and probably file. The other one, this is organization and we have a lot of ways to if you get a nosebleed, this is yeah, so they do that. They're talking about so what can you do? This thing they just likewise find out what's going on. Basically, Wi-Fi also I would Wi-Fi sticking with it now. Probably file. The other one, this is document violations of rights, organization and climate so what can you do? In this case, they just likewise, find out what's going on. Basically, life. I think it's quite a life. And that's basically what I did all and that's basically what I did. The rest of us really don't care. And I just saw an article that and that's basically what I did. Really don't care. Basically, what Dr. And I just saw an article that and that's basically what I did. And I just saw an article, like I said, my I just saw, like I said, need to be aware of the fact that some legal representatives, and that's where here are some of need to be aware of the fact that Any questions? Any additional questions? That's how we got the whole knowledge. That's another thing I can do too. They are not just keeping you know, there's one thing that they had a policy. Any questions? Any additional questions? That's how we got the whole knowledge. That's another thing I can do too. You know, there's one thing
It started it with speakers once a month during the school year from either UNI or Warwick College, a theologist, and on Christian topics. And they all comments and questions were, I mean, I really enjoyed it because it was open discussion. But one spring they had a series on the evolution of the Bible and whatever. And it's like, because Jesus supposedly predicted that the end times, the kingdom of heaven would come before everybody died and heard him. A couple of the gospels say that, they ignore that, of course. But because then the Christians thought, well, you know, hey, it's like you don't have to have children because it's the end, right? You shouldn't have children. And so in Matthew 19, it goes into this, and I probably would have missed it had I not gone to the Canterbury forums when I heard the professors discuss it. But it's like, it's really astounding. It's like they say, you know, you shouldn't have sex because it's going to be the end. I mean, you don't need children, right?
Right.
And his disciples say to him, if the case of the man be so with his wife, it is not good to marry. But he said unto them, all men cannot receive this saying, save they to whom it is given. For there are some eunuchs, which were so born from their mother's womb. So, hey, they are not all men and women from the time they are fetuses, right? Which were, and there are some eunuchs which were made eunuchs of men, and there be eunuchs which have made themselves eunuchs for the kingdom of heaven's sake. He that is able to receive it, let him receive it. So we should encourage, I mean, hey, shouldn't they encourage?
Yeah, that's one path that you can take to challenging it is talk about the theology. It just depends on what area that you're in, usually you try to get the lay of the land, what kind of views are out there. You could do that. That's one way of doing it. Because I'm all about forming a coalition, and like I said, get together with people that are like-minded. And so you might find people that are against it because of the theology. You can work with them, even though you don't want it at all. Like I don't want it at all,
but somebody that's against the theology, they might still want it. Yeah. Most Christians haven't read the Bible. Yeah. Which Bible?
So why? Like they didn't like sex ed programs from, I mean, I didn't like stuff and they were fighting it like crazy. My perception about Bill Clinton and the blue dress and all that was not so much that he did it. It was on the evening news and they had to explain to their kids.
Yeah, they do that. A lot of religious people will cherry pick stuff like that. Yeah.
Where does this issue intersect with classes like teaching the Bible as literature, or as poetry, or as history? Or is that whole issue more of a college level?
No, it doesn't have the LifeWise program and the way that the formatting is for RTRI right now, and there's different groups, not just LifeWise. There's a new group that popped up in Hancock County recently too, is they use the Bible to teach character values supposedly. So they'll teach the stories, like the boy that cried wolf and all that stuff. They'll teach that. It's like going to Sunday school. What you're talking about is an academic exercise, and you can do that in school. That's not allowed. You can study poetry or the history or whatever, or find out King James was really, really insane and things like that. That's fine, because you're not talking about whether it's true or not. You're just talking about how it was written and in the different books. So I don't have a problem with that either. It's just when you start saying that the stories are true or you should live your life how we think you should live, and that's when I have the indoctrination part. Yeah. Any other questions, comments, concerns?
As you
Yeah, like I said, I've been following this issue since 2014, and I like that first bill, the first time that they put that law out. I think I sent in a testimony at that time too. So it always gets me when I talk to people, when these groups that I work in. A lot of times, the first thing they'll say is, "How is that legal?" And it's like, well, you got to look at the whole history and look at the thing, and it should be illegal, but it's not.
Throughout all of Ohio, there are a lot of school boards, and there's a lot of groups that are trying to get people to sign up to become to serve on the school boards. So those are always, if you're not able to do it yourself, find people, support those that are, and definitely attend those school board meetings.
And I will add to your point that the Christian nationalists, they do it stealthily. They won't come out and say, we want to teach the Bible. They'll do something else. They're like, we want accountability or something. They'll mask it that way. Yeah.
And the other thing is that it looks like there's a lot of positions, just open positions. So just be aware, learn your facts, follow through, and definitely vote. And that's important that we all do that. One of the things that's coming through right now in the state legislature is they're trying to do away with the elections of school board,
the state school board. Yeah, get rid of them.
Specific political parties.
Yeah, and that's one thing that you say, do your investigations of these candidates. That's hard for people to do. You have to search one.
How do you do? I mean, I do that, but a lot of times challenging.
It's challenging.
So, an organization like yours, do you vet candidates? I mean, can we, I mean.
Well,
Just looking at your bio.
yeah, our particular group, we really can't do that because that's a minefield for our tax exempt status. But we can recommend groups that do that, like League of Women Voters, they do it. The Blade, they do profiles on candidates. But what I would say is if you have particular issues that you're concerned about, I would formulate a couple of quick questions so that you ever meet these candidates in public, and there's usually a public forum for these candidates. Even school boards have public forums for candidates. Ask them, do you support RTRI, or are you a Christian nationalist? You can even ask them that, and just get them on the record of either denying it or saying they are or whatever. Yeah, that too.
You don't know, but, when I worked in Fulton County, Georgia, and basically he was on communications for our local group. I mean, this is where I discovered how hard it was. Because I was trying in the newsletter to give them links to this person's bio or something. And as you get down into the local level, sometimes there's nothing out there.
Right.
But if you can go to the internet and find out, well, do they belong to a church? What other groups are they affiliated with? Sometimes you can go to Facebook, and pull them up and see. But a lot of them were on Facebook, but there was absolutely nothing about their activities or what they do.
And it
So
doesn't hurt
it's
to
really hard.
call or reach out to your representatives now. Like for example, Paula Hicks Hudson, that you just mentioned earlier in this, she was absent during the vote.
Yeah.
And it's like, we should be calling her office and asking, why weren't you there? And just having, it might just, if it's just one person that's asking, they're gonna ignore it. But when 11 of us in here.
I plan, if I see her in a public forum, I'm going to ask her again. So, yeah.
I was listening to a podcast with, not that podcast, it was Heather Cox Richardson was speaking with Senator Angus King of Maine, and he said for his office, and this is probably true for many others, they do read it. The best way to contact them, not necessarily by phone, but send them an email. Their office receives those emails, they tally those up, they get an idea of how people are shifting on different topics. Better yet, send a letter. And through the USPS, you're actually doing two things there. One, you're actually supporting our United States Postal Service, which is in jeopardy. And two, they're going to have a physical copy there, which
You think that, well,
it does make a difference. according to-
all that paper.
Yeah, well,
They tally, they summarize it and tally it, and yeah. But I will say too, oh, sorry.
You can send snail mail to Washington, but when Bruce Braley was my congressman in Iowa, he pointed out that after 9/11, it goes to Maryland, and by the time they search it, sometimes it's not readable, but it's definitely delayed. So if you're gonna send snail mail to a national person, send it to a local office.
Yeah, exactly, that's what I mean.
Right, and also too, the Congress people, they limit, if you go to their contact form on their website, they limit it to constituents. So you have to put in your zip code, so you have to find out their zip code.
They tell it by the 9-digit zip. So I pick an address for one of their offices, look up on the USPS for the last four, and I just put one of their addresses and pretend it's like when we learned to write a business letter years ago with an inside address. I put my email and my right phone number, because phone, you don't know where you are anymore. My email.
Yeah.
And it gets so you end up too many emails, because no matter what you complain about, they're gonna think you are a supporter, and you end up with too much garbage in your inbox. But no, there's a way to get around it. I've done it for a decade. Well, at least one.
Right. Anything else? Any other questions? Yeah.
I would love presentation. Vouchers and voucher funding.
Yeah, that is something I am working on now. I'm in a working group on that. And yeah, almost $1 billion in vouchers to private schools in the state of Ohio, and they want to give them more. They want to give $600 million to the Cleveland Browns for their stadium, and they only want to give $500 million to public schools. Yeah, we're on the same group. Yeah. We're working on model legislation. As mayor, I'm on the subcommittee model legislation. I think she's doing the looking up the data. Yeah, but yeah, there's a thing on the Ohio Department of Education website where you can find out what schools are getting voucher money and how much they get, and it's mind blowing. It's just mind blowing.
There's a percentage of school districts in Ohio that do not have private schools anywhere near them. So they're paying a voucher.
Yeah.
They're not getting
They're
any.
not getting it.
And there's a large percentage of that money are going to people that are $200,000 school vouchers.
Yeah.
So there are people that are already that are paying for those, that would be paying for their children if they're going to private schools. And all this is doing is just, it's robbing from the rest of us to support those that are upper middle class.
Yeah, and there was a story this week, Arkansas. They're having to redo their voucher law because people were using it for country club memberships, Prime memberships, vacations, because there wasn't any rules about it. They would just send you a check. Because that's how they have to do it. They can't give, especially if it's a religious school, they can't send the religious school the check. They have to send it to the parents, and the parents send it to the school. And so parents are using it for other purposes because they're already paying for the school.
And that's just in the fact that then that money ends up not being used for, say, someone in the lower financial classes of your city. It was supposed to give them a choice.
Yeah.
Not just the rich.
Yeah, I think it's like 90% in Ohio is not, it's not low income or something. 90% of the vouchers go to people that already go to private schools. Yeah. But yeah, so I'm working on that. It's like, it's in the budget and people are looking at it. So hopefully I'll have a presentation about it soon. We'll find out.
And if you want to, we've had some really good, troublemakers. That's some really good presentation. The Thursday one, we had somebody that was talking about self-defense as well. So, and how to break free of somebody trying to grab you, or in case we're an event where something like that happens. And he was a sensei at a martial arts school. Another one that was talking about stress relief, breathing exercises for relieving stress, because we're all under a lot of stress as it is. So things like that. And so we complement each other with what our SHoWLE folks do too.
All right. Well, I think we'll go ahead and wrap up for today. And I really appreciate everybody that came today. And we have the room till 12. So if you want to mingle or talk or whatever while I'm busy trying to put stuff away, that's fine. And again, we have the happy hour on the 24th at Nick and Jimmy's, and then the food bank volunteering on the 30th. All right. Thanks a lot, everybody. See you next time.